Hey, yo, folks! Christmas season is almost over. I refuse thus far to take anything down. Well, Mr. Jingles is helping out by, well, doing what a cat normally does. And, what is that up there? Let's do that with it. But yeah, so I hope you all have had happy holidays, happy Christmas, that you at least everything wasn't a disappointment. Sometimes that is a win in itself. We are gathered today. Oh yeah, YouTube things. Thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't, leave a comment. And again, you guys over at Rumble, welcome. There's a few of you over there. Kick, the two of you, thanks for being around. Oh, thanks for being around. Except if you're a chatbot on Kick, then you can go 8-minute word yourself. We are going to... What we are going to talk about today would never have surfaced if Lauren Matthias hadn't been a C word. If Lauren Matthias didn't spend time talking crap about victims, talking crap about friends behind their backs, if she had, back in April, or maybe even sooner, said to her audience, I'm sorry. It was a lapse of judgment. I thought we just had a different sense of humor. I overstepped the boundaries. I make a 10-minute groveling to the audience kind of thing. None of what we are going to talk about today would probably ever have surfaced. Ever. Because even though Lauren Matthias is a C word, a mean girl, what John Matthias seems to have done in parts of his professional career is on a whole other level, folks. A whole other level. Especially in the light of what he claimed about Rick Allen. He died. Remember when he said, I don't diagnose people, but he's a psychopath, that kind of thing, which he does. How he found that, the torture, that's nothing. In the light of that, and now we are getting to see his body of work, which, by the way, it isn't that large. Well, we are starting to find really interesting things, but what is most remarkable, in my personal opinion at least, is that in his CV, how he bolsters himself of he's been testifying in federal court, and he's been doing that, and assessing veterans and all other things. It doesn't seem like that's correct. I see Andy in the chat here, who just sent me just minutes ago what is found about his so-called assessing veterans. It seems like the plural is wrong. It seems like It is singular form. One veteran. And I can explain if you want. Yes. I tried to invite Andy earlier. Oh, I don't have the time, yada, yada, yada. I'm sending her a link. So you can come on and explain it yourself. Yeah. Here, over 500 plus federal court evaluation. Yeah, we will go through that in this part here. It's this, what the document here is a case out of 2021. And there is a footnote in there that is, let's just say it's telling. Let's just say it's very, very telling. So yeah, Andy, I sent you an invite. If you want to come on and explain that, because folks, I got it. I mean, I'm a fast reader. I spent years in the European Parliament as a documents analyst. I can read really fast, but I have to understand it more. So lucky for us. Hi, Andy. Hello, Andy. I think Andy did.
Hello?
Hey, there you are.
Hmm.
You
Can't hear. Hang on a second. I'm
did.
useless. One moment, please. I can't hear. Why can't I hear? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you. But I don't.
Curious. Very curious. Why don't you kick me out? I'll jump back on.
Okay. So Andy will be here to explain the veterans stuff. But while we wait for Andy's while we wait for Andy to unboomerang herself, let's see if it works. Hello?
Hello?
Hello? Do you hear me?
Man, I still can't hear you.
Oh.
Now, let me take this off. Please stand by. Technical.
Do not clip that and put it into an unnecessary moment.
Okay.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey.
So, yeah.
So,
What I found, and I'll just explain it quickly and then jump off and go back to reading my entertaining and exciting Barcelona traction case.
I have it up here. It's the
so let me tell you how I got this stuff. And I sent God, I'm so terrible at this. So what I did was I went through and I checked just to give background on this. I went through yesterday and I looked through all the, like Westlaw. And there's the function is you can check all of the, like Juris Pro and ALM and all these places that provide experts and expert testimony. And he did show up, and I think I sent a copy to you.
Yeah, I have it up here.
Yeah.
On screen.
I mean, I can actually, I just downloaded it from Westlaw because not everybody can access that, obviously. But this case I found was the only one that came up that had a federal angle to it. And this one is not as horrifying as some of the other ones, because fortunately it doesn't involve SA or evaluating for recidivism for SA or any of these things. This one is purely what it looks like from where I'm sitting. Is it like an SSI benefits? It's almost like through an administrative court.
Yeah.
if you will. Yeah, so it's like an administrative court, but my theory is that, you know, he did an assessment on a depressed veteran who, you know, was having drinking problems and all this other stuff. And you'll see in there that he and another gentleman are listed as having conducted a like a psychosocial evaluation. But it was just to show that the man was, in fact, depressed and, you know, going through rehab, things like that. And so it actually was pretty harmless in that way.
Yeah, I mean, it's more or less what they were confirming what others already had concluded. So it's
Yes.
it's a confirmation test.
Yes, correct. Yeah, basically. And so the partner, I don't know if you pulled it up. Okay, yeah. So yeah, so the person who he was working with here, Christopher Elia, is the he works for the VA. I don't know if he still does, actually. I was just able to find him on LinkedIn. It's not hard. But yeah, so I mean, they just did an evaluation of this dude. But to me, there's like the three cases that seem to pop up is where he derives all of his bullshit.
Yeah, all his bolstering and everything seems to be from 3 cases.
Yes.
And 2 of them are really bad for him.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I mean, you know, the paperwork on the one, you know, the transcript I read and the things that Hella read. I mean, I've read some stuff, but it's pretty disgusting. And he seems to be a one-note cowboy that really wanted, and this is just my opinion, based on which, you know, will get you nowhere. But I think that we're singing from the same songbook here, where the guy had basically 3 cases that, you know, that he derives all his bona fides from. Oh, I've worked for federal, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Well, I mean, did you though? You kind of did in one instance, and it looks like it was in an SSI case, which again, those are vital. People need their SSI, but the other shit, son, you done fucked up.
I mean, folks, what I'm going to talk to you, you might have seen it on Hellas and on other channels. I hope I can bring some more insight into that.
I'll share 2 other things, and then I need to go.
Okay.
But the 2 other things, and I think you know, when you have a chance to take a look at them, you can share them or whatever. But also within this database, so again, and I think you're probably familiar with like Westlaw and how that goes through all of the machinations to find experts. So I did a search between 1996 and 2025. And I just, I think that there was one screenshot maybe that I sent you, and the only case that shows up in any of those databases. Now, this is, you know, Westlaw draws all this together from all of the expert databases. I searched forensic, I went across the board, and it's this one case. And there's also no, and so that's something that I think is important here. I tried to look it up. You know, tried to see, well, maybe he's in different, but many of these people do have you know, their CVs attached. Well, I sent you I sent you a screenshot where, you know, there's no contact information, there's no CV attached. So I think you'll see the remnants of a person who did one thing or another here or there. So that's
more or less when you search for experts, you have a list. Okay, these are the people we normally work with. Then I have so many times. You have to have an extended list as well.
Yep.
And then if you have the priority list and you have the extended list.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it happens that, that psychologist or that expert, no, they can't because they have been in a related case, or or they have retired, and then you go to the bottom of the barrel.
Yep.
And hope that one of them fits. It seems like John Matthias is bottom of the barrel.
I don't know if you want to show this. So this is just the screenshot to show you how I searched. And again, this is just through the Westlaw database.
Now, Westlaw isn't complete in that way. It might be that if his conclusions and stuff weren't used in a case, then it won't show up.
Correct. So that's why I went to Lexis Pro.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I did the case searches as well, obviously, but you're right. So some of these, there certainly could be some in the woodwork, but from this, this database search, which combined all the expert databases, he does come up, but it's just this one case, and it's the SSI case. So, so there you go.
Okay.
Enjoy.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So I hate you all the least.
Oh. I love you too. All right. All right. So so that was, you barely find anything. And I saw it earlier in the chat. John might have tried to hide a firm to scrub himself from the internet. That's a strong possibility. Or he simply never had a presence because he was shit at what he did and nobody wanted to use him. It might be one or the other. Now, let's get into this here. This is a case. Now, if you are sensitive, because what's in here is about a person convicted of doing bad things to children, whose defense hired John Matthias for an evaluation. And there are a lot in this document here that, it's rough, folks. It's rough, folks. But I will go into it verbally. But this here, what we are going to read through, will tell you a lot about John Matthias and how he works. So this is the prosecution's answer to the defense, to a defense motion, where more or less they want, hey, this guy, this serial perpetrator of bad things to children, he should be, we should be lenient to him, and he deserves to walk the streets. That is what the defense argued in there. That's the short form. So this is the prosecution who answers to that. Matthias' psychosexual report is not reliable and cannot support a further downward variance. Downward variance here is leniency in sentencing. So this guy has already been convicted. This is sentencing, when the defense says, go on the lower end, as low as you can go. And apparently, Mr. Matthias misunderstood his assignment with going as low as you can. The government asked that the court give no weight to Matthias' opinion as to Dittmer III's recidivism risk, as it lacks, quote, sufficient indicia of reliability to support its probable accuracy. The psychosexual test used by Matthias lacks sufficient indicia of reliability to measure for recidivism in this case. The government asked that the court give no weight to the predictions of recidivism included in Dittmer III's psychosexual evaluation, because those predictions rely on a concerningly incomplete definition of recidivism. Matthias utilized the static 99R, the Vermont assessment of sex offender risk 2, the VASER 2, the sex offender treatment and intervention progress scale, SOTIPS, and the violence risk appraisal guide to evaluate Dittmer III's risk of recidivism. First, researchers found that applying the VRAG to sexual offenders did not accurately predict sexual offenders' recidivism, and therefore the Sex Offender Risk Appraisal Guide, SORAG, was developed from the VRAG. Matthias does not utilize the SORAG. And here is the footnote. To the extent this court is inclined to give any weight to Matthias' psychosexual report, the government seeks to challenge Matthias' qualifications as an expert in the field of adult sex offender recidivism, and would request Dittmer III be ordered to present Matthias as a witness for this court's consideration. Matthias has never testified as an expert in federal court. Has never testified as an expert as to adult psychosexual evaluation or recidivism. And the last time he testified as an expert was in 2011 in family juvenile court proceedings. And now remember John's CV, where he claims he has been an expert in multiple cases in federal court. Here's the thing with when the defense uses him as an expert, he has to present an accurate CV to the court, to the prosecution. So this is not only the government saying, hey, we don't think. This is from what he himself gave to the court in his CV. That he had never testified in federal court as an expert. He has never testified regarding adults. And the last time he testified as an expert was in 2011 in family juvenile court proceedings. So what we have here, folks, is John Matthias. In 2011 was the last time he testified in a juvenile court proceeding. Then he shows up in, when was this? Let's see, where is it? Okay, this assessment was in 2009, the veteran assessment. So between 2011 and this case here in 2021, it was presented. There is no trace of him in any court, anywhere in the United States. A 10-year gap. So what would possibly have happened that made him have a 10-year hiatus as an expert in any court? What happened in 2011? Oh, there are 2016 discovered on Reddit today. Hey, nice. Okay, so a couple of cases from 2016, but still 2 cases, a handful that has been found. 2011, 2021, and then nothing. We're talking about from 2009 to 2025. 5 combined that we know of. Now, we don't know how often he was used in or before 2011 in juvenile court, but it bears to speculate what happened in juvenile court that made it that he never testified as an expert in juvenile court again. And remember, oh, he might do other work. He might do stuff that's not published. Remember Lauren Matthias saying that she's the breadwinner? Even mediocre psychologists make a decent living. How fucking bad is John Matthias at being a psychologist? And he calls himself a forensic psychologist, which I would say that's absolute bullshit. But again, it bears speculating exactly how bad he was that he never returned even to juvenile court. Why was he never used again? Expert testimony in juvenile court, that's a living. There are people there are psychologists out there whose entire career is assessing juveniles for juvenile court. And he can't. So did he switch from assessing veterans, being bad at that? Juvenile court was so bad at it that he hasn't returned to it? 2 cases from 2016, and then this case here in 2021, where the government questions that he is even an expert. Folks, there's a saying over here, I don't know if you have it. If you meet an idiot in the morning, you met an idiot. If everybody you meet are an idiot that day, maybe it's you. John Matthias didn't return to assessing veterans, didn't return to juvenile court. And here the government is actively questioning his expertise. If he's bad at everything he does, the 2021 filing stems back from the initial 2011. Yeah, the court case in itself is from, let's see here. Hold on while I check here. Filed November 1st, 2021. Let's see here. Yeah, so Matthias' assessment was for this sentencing, was for this case. So he might have done it in 2020 or 2021. I don't know. Let's try to find it again. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, there we were. All right, let's keep reading. Yeah. Last time he testified as an expert was in 2011 in family juvenile court proceedings. Okay. Second, the static 99R, Vaser 2, and SOTIPS test purports to offer conclusions about only rearrest rates, not re-offense rates for sex offenders. So it appears as John Matthias didn't even understand the assignment. Because this person, he was asked to evaluate in a case that was about, well, what about his re-offensing? And he used tests for being rearrested, which are two completely different things. Yeah, this is this John Matthias. Thank you, aka the cat lady. John Matthias was perfectly comfortable trying to get Christina in prison between 5 and 50 years. And here he is saying to the court, hey, you should let him out sooner. A repeat sex offender. Really, John? Really? Oh. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. From Blue Jay. Thank you. Keep exposing him. It's a dangerous game they're playing. People take him seriously because of how he's fluffed himself up. Such a fraud. Yeah. Thank you for your 7 Canadian. Thank you so much. That is very, very nice of you. Thank you so much. The tests define recidivism as the likelihood of a future arrest and conviction for a hands-on sex offense. In other words, they measure the likelihood that a sex offender is caught or convicted for committing a new sex offense. They do not, however, include an assessment of the likelihood that the sex offender will commit a new sex offense but remain undetected and unprosecuted. Yet the requirement that the court consider the need for the sentence imposed to protect the public relates to whether Dittmer III will commit further sexual crimes against children, not whether he will be apprehended for committing such crimes. The Seventh Circuit has observed that, quote, estimates of recidivism are bound to be too low when one is dealing with underreported crimes such as sex offenses. Static 99 treats as a recidivist only someone who is convicted of a further offense, but the recidivism concern is with someone who commits a further offense, whether or not he is caught. Yet if he is not caught, his subsequent crime does not affect the data on which the static 99 calibration are based. And thank you to HTC. Thank you. I think you forgot to write something there, but no worries. Thank you. Oh, Cat Lady, thank you for your super sticker. Wow, you guys are generous here. What is that sticker? It's a Lemon Man doing yay something. Thank you guys. Critical trigger. You should watch HTC interview with Sarah Grace Patrick, and it's maddening. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. Also a very infuriating case. An extremely infuriating case. Where were we? Yet, if he is not caught, his subsequent claim does not affect the data on which the static 99 calibrations are based. And then there's a lot of... This observation regarding the static 99 is applicable to its revised version, the static 99R, as well as the Vaser 2 and SOTIPs. To be sure, any person who has not been convicted for hands-on offenses will always score as low risk of reoffending. These tests are thus inherently unreliable as recidivism measurements because they are validated on an absurd definition of recidivism. Wow. Difficult research. Thank you so much for your super sticker. It's a chipmunk doing Bravo, I think. Thank you. You guys are so nice. Wait, is Kresha here? So, hey, Kresha. Wait a minute. I'm so bad at names. And the chat is going by. Hello. S offenses are the most underreported crimes in society, even more so with child victims. With few exceptions, CP offenses are committed in secret and are difficult to detect until the offender begins to distribute, as was the case here. These psychosexual tests account for none of this because they are designed to measure something else entirely. Yeah, folks. When Matthias evaluated this guy, he did not take into account that this offender tried to receive material in prison. He just didn't care about that. Seriously? Are you that low on money? This is an example of a hired gun. It seems like John Matthias here, more or less, pay me and I will make something sound good. And he chose to do it for a repeat child sex offender. Now, those people, they have due process. They should have every protection under the law and under the Constitution. Don't get me wrong here. But it has to be done right. And John Matthias chose to do it wrong. Protecting the public cannot be so singularly hitched to the myopic assessment of whether someone will commit a crime that is also detected, leading to a prosecution that also results in a conviction. In that way, recidivism is misleadingly incomplete term when used in psychosexual tests, and in many ways represent the antithesis of the court's concern in protecting the public. Further, although all of the tests to which Dittmer III was subjected purport to measure his likelihood to commit and be convicted on a hands-on S offense, but the court's goal in assessing recidivism is to determine if Dittmer III will commit any S offense, including CP offenses. The test definition of recidivism is thus doubly incomplete in assessing this court's sentencing decisions. Moreover, there are actuarial instruments which are not substantially different from actuarial tables used by insurance providers. For that reason, these tools have come under justifiable scrutiny by sentencing courts, which are charged with conducting individualized assessments of defendants. These tests also place undue emphasis on age and claim a correlation between advanced aged and lowered recidivism. but there is no empirical basis to account for advanced age in S offenders when assessing future risk of reoffending. Over here, where I am, in Sweden, it is acknowledged that sex offenders are the hardest to rehabilitate. And of the sex offenders, child sex offenders are basically impossible to rehabilitate without chemical castration. I'm not an expert in that area. I do come across it from time to time because I do labor and employment. Sometimes even though a person is convicted of a crime, an SA crime, they are still protected under the law because their employment is not related to the offense. So yeah, fun times. Fun times. Notwithstanding the lack of scientific correlation, as a logical matter, the older a person is when released from custody, the less likely they are to be charged and convicted of a new crime, simply by virtue of fewer years remaining in life. Of course, this militates in favor of longer custodial sentences, because the longer a defendant is in prison, the older he will be when he gets out, and the less time he has to, in the remaining years of his life, to be charged with, and convicted of any new crime. Contrary to what this pseudo-scientific test claim, ouch! The logic underlying that test themselves suggests that the best way to protect the community is incarcerating a defendant for an extended period of time until he is so old that he is highly unlikely to commit the new crime, let alone getting convicted for it using the absurd definition of recidivism advocated by every psychosexual test. And then, here's the thing. Matthias incorrectly scored all of Dittmer's psychosexual tests. So even doing the bad tests, he did them wrong. Even taking the test Matthias administered to Dittmer at face value shows that a 27-year sentence is warranted because once the scores are accurately recorded, he demonstrates to be a higher risk for recidivism than he claims under his own deeply flawed tools. On the static 99R testing sheet, Matthias failed to increase Dittmer's score to account for prior offenses. John, for fuck's sake! How do you not take into account prior offenses? How do you ignore prior offenses? Well, we will find out that sooner, because John Matthias only took Dittmer's word, his self-reporting. Even though John Matthias had every piece of document available to him to make a decent evaluation, he only went with what Dittmer told him. Where were we? He also failed to increase Dittmer's score for stranger victims. Notably, Matthias played a question mark next to the stranger victim factor, which would have increased Dittmer's risk category to moderate to high. Yeah, this Dittmer, the stranger fact, he did it to kids he didn't know. Makes him a higher risk. Had Matthias scored Dittmer's static 99R, he would have scored in the moderate to high risk category. On the Vaser 2, Matthias did not increase Dittmer's score for violating release conditions during the past 5 years. Dittmer also had multiple victims, and Matthias documented it in his report. But despite this acknowledgement, Matthias failed to increase Dittmer's score by the minimum 2 points. Lastly, Matthias failed to increase Dittmer's score for serious life disruptions based on Dittmer's substance abuse during the past 5 years in the community. Matthias contemplated scoring Dittmer as a 2 versus a 1 on this particular question. In the pre-trial service report, the PSR, and his sentencing memorandum, Dittmer discussing his drug use. Based on Dittmer's self-report, a score of 2 should have been applied. Matthias' assessment of Dittmer's severity factor checklist within the Vaser 2 is also incorrect. Dittmer committed a hands-on contact offense by forcing a 7-year-old relative, oh boy, which was not identified by Matthias in his scoring. Ultimately, if the Vaser had been correctly scored, Dittmer would have scored in the moderate to high risk category as to this assessment as well. Matthias' scoring of Dittmer's test on the SOTIPs is also questionable. SOTIPs provide a 16-item list for an evaluator to assess a defendant's relative treatment and supervision needs. Matthias scored Dittmer as minimal to no need for improvement score in at least 4 categories: as offense responsibility, sexual attitudes, criminal and rule-breaking attitudes, and stage of change. Dittmer clearly needs at least some improvement, and arguably considerable need for improvement in each of these 3 categories based on his conduct. Matthias also scored Dittmer's as some need for improvement, but should have also increased to at least considerable need for improvement in the categories of interest, management, and criminal and rule-breaking behavior. Matthias scored Dittmer's based on his self-report. But Dittmer's conduct between 2014 and 2021, including his persistent attempts to access CP while incarcerated, demonstrate that Dittmer is in considerable need for improvement in these identified areas. Even by minimally increasing Dittmer's score by 3 points, which is warranted based on Dittmer's conduct, his category result is moderate. When used in conjunction with the static 99 or the Vaser, as recommended by the SOTIP scoring guide, Dittmer's risk category would be identified as moderate to high. And there's more. Matthias' evaluation and opinions are based on inaccurate and incomplete information. In addition to the problematic and incomplete tools discussed above, Matthias' psychosexual evaluation was also based on Dittmer's self-reported history. But that self-reported history lacks vital details of Dittmer's conduct, including hands-on victimization of a 7-year-old relative. And Matthias either misunderstood or manipulated the discovery and Dittmer's statements to arrive at the opinions and conclusions detailed in his evaluation. First, Dittmer's self-reporting was not verified through the use of a polygraph. Well, this is bullshit. We don't need that. That's a bad argument, prosecution. This is a bad argument. As noted by Judge Posner, quote, the best predictor of recidivism is not deportment at an interview, but interest in children. Dittmer has a high interest in children, as is evidenced by his multiple crimes against children occurring over a span of at least 7 years. Dittmer continues to demonstrate to this court that his interest in children is still prevalent today, as evidenced by the mail Dittmer Dittmer received while in custody. I can't read that. Matthias also used the paraphilia scale survey to assess Dittmer's PD interest and claimed that, quote, research has consistently shown a correlation between paraphilias and sexual recidivism. This survey should be disregarded as Dittmer's self-reported answers are unreliable and do not align with his actual conduct. For example, Dittmer claimed in the survey that he was very repulsed by the phrases, I can't say those phrases. However, Dittmer's conduct directly contradicts this self-reported answer. Dittmer's conduct of possessing CP in 2014, distributing CP in 2016, committing a hands-on offense against his relative, tormenting a 13-year-old girl into providing photos and demanding she perform on him, show more than his self-reporting statement could about his interests. Notably, Dittmer reported that he exposed himself once a year or more on average. And that is his self-reporting, folks, where he tries to make himself look better. For fuck's sake. The other inventory Matthias used was the screening scale for PD interest, revised SSPI2. Matthias' scoring on this inventory was incorrect, as Matthias did not account for the 7-year-old victim. The additional unidentified victims from Dittmer's Snapchat account, and the additional victims of Dittmer's CP collection. If correctly answered, Dittmer's score would double, resulting in a score of 4 out of 5 items being present rather than only 2. According to Matthias' score of 2, Dittmer had some potentially moderate these things' interests. However, Dittmer's true score, which is double of that of Matthias' score, demonstrates Dittmer has more serious PDF than Matthias documented. Moreover, Matthias failed to utilize the single biggest predictor of offense recidivism, phallometric assessment, PPG. The phallometric assessment involves the direct monitoring of response when viewing or listening to stimuli. That Matthias failed to administer this test and relied solely on Dittmer's uncorroborated and frankly contradicted self-report is suspect. Matthias' evaluation is also based upon an incorrect recitation or manipulation of the history and characteristics of Dittmer. For example, Matthias incorrectly stated that Dittmer disclosed abuse as a toddler. Matthias also concluded that Dittmer's compulsive CP usage can be explained by his past abuse as a toddler and through his probable exposure to his father's CP around the age of 10 or 11. However, these opinions and conclusions directly contradict the evidence and information available to Matthias, including Dittmer's own statements. Dittmer never disclosed abuse. It was Dittmer's mother who made the allegation of abuse, which was ultimately unsubstantiated, based on a dream she had. And Dittmer has no recollection of any misconduct occurred. Indeed, Matthias even recognized that Dittmer told him that his father has never acted inappropriately with him that he can remember. In light of this information, Matthias' opinion that Dittmer should be considered a victim of past abuse, making him more amenable to therapeutic rehabilitation rather than incarceration, must be rejected and cast serious doubt as to the legitimacy of the report as a whole. Matthias was also aware that Dittmer was first exposed to CP at 15-year-old by his friends from videos they created of their girlfriends, not Dittmer's father at 10-year-old. Matthias also documented that Dittmer denied that he had any access to his father's CP, and that Dittmer had learned about his father's usage after the initial federal search warrant in 2014. Dittmer's compulsive usage cannot be blamed on the conduct that did not occur. Matthias' conclusions contradict his own summary of evidence throughout his evaluation. Thus, Matthias' opinions and conclusions cannot be trusted. Now, when it comes to his father, Dittmer's father, and everything that happened there, I don't know. I don't know this case that well, so I can form an opinion. But if his dad had CP, and then Dittmer CP, unless it's genetic, something happened in that home. But again, it has to be proven. Do we have anything else? Matthias' conclusion that Dittmer resorted to the primitive defense mechanism of splitting is also unreliable because it is based on the incorrect, manipulated, and incomplete information as discussed above. Moreover, splitting is a process identified in early childhood that is highly associated with persons diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. Matthias did not diagnose Dittmer with borderline personality disorder, and Dittmer has not presented any record that he has such a diagnosis. This court cannot rely on Matthias' claim that Dittmer utilized such a defense mechanism when he has not even been diagnosed with the primary disorder in which it is found. John, if you in your documents claim BPD, there are a whole new set of tests for that, which you never did. So you made it the fuck up. How in the serious? How? Because now we are going into territory. We have been, he's just a shitty psychologist who makes up opinions for money. But here, he makes up an entire diagnosis to prove prior points. That goes from bad at your job to fraud at your job. Even if Dittmer III was suffering from splitting, Dittmer claims that he committed the crimes in 2019 to shield and protect his father based on splitting is illogical. If Dittmer wanted to protect his father and shield him from conviction, the logical action would be for Dittmer to claim that all the CP recovered was his and not his father's. Dittmer's additional crimes do not take blame away from his father's historical behavior. Dittmer continues to reoffend while in custody, even after his father pled guilty and was sentenced, negating any need to protect him. This further proves Dittmer's acts were those of his own desires, not of his desire to protect his father. This court should reject any notion that Dittmer's conduct was the result of splitting. Jesus Christ, how much more is it? Yeah, it's not much more. Matthias' summary of information, test scores, and opinions contradict the evidence in this case. Matthias did not have the full scope of information and either manipulated or misunderstood vital information to provide his low-risk opinion. In either event, this court cannot rely upon the opinions and evaluations of Matthias, as they are based on flawed information and test scores. Thus, the government asks that the court disregard the Matthias report and its resultant conclusions, and any testimony provided by Matthias should he appear at sentencing as lacking sufficient indicia of reliability to support its probable accuracy. This is horrifyingly bad. You have John posing on YouTube and podcast as this superhuman psychologist who has been testified as an expert in federal court, and I'm so good at this, and I'm so is a fucking scam. Who speculatively was thrown out from juvenile court as an expert witness and never returned to it. Who is the bottom of the barrel of experts when it comes to veterans. And now let's go to, the 2016 case. Where he helped a pedo return to the streets who then reoffended. Now, I don't have the document. So what we are going to do is, by permission of Hella, we're going to listen to her talking about that case.
Hey everyone, Hella here, and I have another court document where I found Dr. John Matthias mentioned. This time it's a bit different to the last one. He is actually mentioned as the licensed PhD chosen by the Department of Parole and Probation, and it's in Nevada. Now, this was back in 2016. Get ready, because there is some disturbing content in this video too. So I'm just going to present the facts to you guys, and yeah, I'm sorry about the content, guys. Here we go. I'm actually going to start with this news article from 2024, October 2024. Man accused of grabbing child during football practice in Las Vegas. A convicted sex offender allegedly grabbed a 5-year-old at Las Vegas Park, leading to the man's arrest on new charges. A Clark County grand jury indicted David Neal Jr., 44, last week on charges of child abuse, kidnapping, and prohibited acts by a sex offender, records said. On August 14, Neal allegedly attempted to kidnap the child playing football at Charles Frias Park on Tropicana Avenue and Decatur Boulevard, documents said. By the way, he has pled guilty. This is no longer alleged. The child told police he was running up a hill when Neal ran up behind him and grabbed him. Documents said multiple parents saw the incident and yelled at Neal to let the child go, which he did. Neal then ran off to another part of the park. Now Neal is a registered sex offender who was required to register after a conviction for coercion with force or threat or force enhancement sex. Police said the Nevada Sex Offender Registry places Neal's primary address at the intersection of Tropicana and Decatur. Neal told police he saw the child and attempted to assist him by grabbing his hand and pulling him, documents said. Okay, so in Neal's 2016 case, and this is the one where I'm going to show you Dr. Matthias's mention, he entered an Alford plea, meaning he accepted prosecutors had enough evidence to sway a jury for sexually assaulting a child whom he knew. And I'm going to tell you some pretty nasty details about this today, unfortunately. Neal's original charges were amended to 2 counts of coercion, sexually motivated. In 2016, Clark County District Court Judge Carolyn Ellsworth sentenced Neal to 1 year to 5 years prison, and Neal later appealed his judgment of conviction, which the Nevada State Supreme Court denied. Okay, moving on to the court documents. Now, big shout out to my wonderful subscriber who I'm not going to name, but you know who you are. You also found for me the Ditma 3 case. All of the community thanks you for your work. Now, this is a fast track statement, and you can see it's David.
I boomed and muted myself. Now, but we can keep listening to this. I don't know if I have anything to add to it, though. So we can keep listening, but I don't want to take viewers from Hella. Because what she is about to tell you is absolute. The Dittmer case and this case combined, I don't know if I have anything to add to it other than what I have already said. It is that bad that we now have one case with Dittmer where he more or less falsified results of tests to get an active, repeat child sex offender out on the streets. And here's this case from 2016, and all of a sudden we are in 2024 when the same guy is caught again, where John Matthias helped to get this guy a linear sentencing and out on the streets again. One time is a coincidence. 2 times is a habit. Which brings us back to what he said about Rick Allen, diagnosing him as a sociopath. Saying that the torture he endured was nothing. At the same time, I'm paraphrasing here. When it came to Keegan Klein's thousands of files of CP, one of John Matthias' questions was, I wonder how long it takes to download that much. One time is a coincidence. 2 times is a habit. Hey, did I see the transcript from sentencing day defense attorney's excuse for John? No, I haven't. I think I have it in my mailbox, but I don't have it. I haven't read through it. Folks, I love it when you send me stuff. I really do. And I will get to it. But I don't want to take viewers away from Hella. What she does is if you haven't subscribed to Hella and Dali or because of all the work they have done, you're doing something wrong. You should go over there right now. And subscribe to her and give her all the likes and all the views. So I won't play this. I gave you a brief summary. I gave you my opinion. And my opinion is, yes, Lauren Matthias is a piece of work. Mean girl. She's a bit of a cunt. Let's just say that. She's more than a bit of a cunt. She's a royal cunt. Who reveals victims' secrets. I mean, the victims that she has had on her show, the victims that she has had contact with, who trusted her with their personal information, with their secrets, which they thought was safe. And she can't not give 2 shits on a straw about keeping that to herself and shares it. You absolute thunder cunt. You don't do that. And despite all of that, we now have John Matthias, who helps active child sex offenders get back on the street. I don't think any one of us expected to find out all of this. We can expect, yeah, they're kind of cunts. Yeah, she does this cease and desists. Yeah, she does that. She forces people to hire attorneys. But I thought it would end with that, and that was bad enough. And it's so much worse. It's so much worse. And we just started to find out. All right, folks. That is what I had for you today. As more information comes out, I'm going to share it. Meanwhile, go over to Hella and Dali, subscribe to them, because they are on the forefront now about this. Oh, this is good. I don't understand how they can have so many followers. I actually do, because they provide a service for people who only read headlines. They are providing blood to bloodthirsty people who only want to see, oh, they are charged, they must be guilty, who only reads the headlines of mass media, who does not go, as we do here, okay, but what does the document actually say? Okay, I can read the article. Let's follow that link and see what it actually says. They focus on headline readers to provide the service of letting them see blood and providing what the audience, and sadly a majority of people in true crime, people are guilty. Whoa, stabby, 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 send them to hell. We have to think one step further, and that's the difference between the largest accounts out there, or some of the largest, and the rest of us who actually enjoys reading documents, and you weirdos who like listening to me reading documents. I wouldn't trade that for anything. You're my people. All right, folks, get over to Hella and subscribe to her if you haven't yet. All right. Well, what have we found out today? Well, no, we already knew that Lauren Matthias was a thunder cunt, but now we learn that Matthias has a weird, not so coincidental ability to try to get pedos out on the streets. That's a choice I wouldn't make. All right, folks, you all have a good one. Love you. Thank you for the support, the thumbs up, and everything from me and Mr. Jingles, who is somewhere around here. Happy New Year's, and make 2026 the best year of your life. All right. See ya. Bye-bye.